So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Hey everybody, it is Larry Sharpe here. Libertarians drinking coffee live. The brand is strong. I want to say thank you for showing up today. Middle of the day, yes, I'm back to my 2 o'clock Eastern time. And I know that some of you may be getting tired of seeing me, but damn it, keep looking at me. And the reason is we have to grow our media. Yes, we do. So please get out there, like, comment, share, let people know this is happening. It's important. How are we going to get past that media blackout if we don't grow our own media? So please help me grow my media. Like, comment, and share. This is all about, look, I know it's about the presidential election this year. I get it. But it's not only about that. It's also about people who are running down ticket, people who are running for Congress, people who are running for State House, people who are running for City Council. There are a lot of libertarians busting their rump out there every single day, still trying to make a difference in their local communities. And I am very lucky. I have one today. I have the man running for Congress in Washington State, Steven Skelton. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm outstanding, Larry. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Very happy. For those of you who want more information on him, please head over to skelton2020.com. Look, you've decided, Steven, that this year you're going to make a leap into the federal world here, right? And you're going to try to run for Congress. That's a big jump. Let me ask, why Congress and why now?
Okay. Starting with the first question, why Congress?
Yep.
The United States House of Representatives. Quite frankly, it's because it's what I know the most about.
Okay.
The federal government, and if we look at the greatest threat to our liberty and to our way of life, it's really the malfeasant government of the federal level.
At the federal level.
At the federal level, they're the ones running the deficits. They're the ones planting the army all around the world. They're the ones
right.
with $800 billion military budget, just out of line with how we want to live as peaceful citizens. That's where the greatest malfeasance is. That's where the greatest difference can be made. Or at least that's how I used to think until Governor Inslee decided we didn't have any rights anymore.
So Governor Inslee, he's trying to outdo the feds. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. As far as why now, the story actually goes back to 2013.
Okay.
On campus, the University of Missouri St. Louis. Now, I'm not a student. I'm much too old to have been in college back then. But Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray came to speak at the University of Missouri St. Louis after the 2012 election. My best friend, his name is Eric Fix, and he's important later. He and I went to that lecture. We listened to Judge Gray. We listened to Gary Johnson. And it was life-changing for me in a lot of ways, but one of which was Gary Johnson's call for regular citizens to step up and to run for office.
Absolutely.
I'm sure your audience are all familiar with Gary Johnson, but he was just a guy. He was just a business guy.
Yep.
And he got into politics as a citizen legislator, and I was very inspired by what he had to say.
Sure.
And so someday I was going to run for office, and someday went later and later.
Sure. Yep.
Moved from St. Louis in 2013 up here to Washington and was planting a life, and things were going along until late last August.
Hey, Skelton, I just got a comment saying they can't hear you that well. Do you have the mic we could use?
Well,
bring that close. Just bring that closer to your mouth. That was perfect.
Bring this right here.
There we go. Now we're good. Much better.
Okay, well, I'll just stand here and hold this, I guess.
There we go. I love it.
All right. So late August of this year, I woke up to a text message, and long story short, my best friend, he died.
Oh, my God.
Very suddenly. And Eric Fix, for those who know him, I got some friends that are going to watch this. He was just a great guy. He's the kind of guy you could imagine drinking with Oscar Wilde or Ernest Hemingway. Knew everything about everything and was just a fantastic conversationalist. And he and I had spoken for years about me running for Congress someday. And then he dies, and that changes priorities. You know, when I'm approaching 50 and my best friend at 50 and he dies, and the urgency of now becomes a matter. And you know, God bless it, 30 days later, my mother died.
Wow.
Yeah, she lived in the back bedroom of my house, and you want to talk about the urgency of now. You watch, and my mother was 80 years old. It was time for her. But
50, it's not time.
No, absolutely not. And so suddenly the urgency of now is what I just keep repeating to myself. And I spoke about it with my wife, and she agreed. Okay, so we'll run for Congress. But I didn't quit my business until I looked at the opportunity that was there in Washington 1. The campaign is the One Seat for Liberty campaign, and the idea is that because of a strange quirk in election laws up here in Washington, I think it's possible for a libertarian to actually win my district.
Wow.
I see a path to victory, and I'll tell you about it, Larry.
I love that.
All right. We have a primary. It's a jungle primary, or top two primary. Everyone goes into the same primary regardless of party.
Right.
The top two move on. Everyone else is eliminated, and it's a one-on-one showdown in November.
Right. So it's possible for you to actually be against just the Democrat or Republican in the actual election. That could happen.
Oh, I don't think it's possible. I think I have as good a shot as anybody. Listen, the Republican Party has abandoned Western Washington. The Republican candidate, he ran in 2018. He's a city councilman from one of the mountain towns. I'm sure he's a good guy. It's not about him, but he raised $15,000. That was it. That was his entire budget.
That's nothing.
No, that's nothing. I can do that. I'm a sales professional. You know.
Yes.
If there's someone who can do that, I can raise that kind of money.
Right.
And I can outwork him because I'm fortunate that my wife is an attorney, and you know, with her practice, I was able to step back from my consulting business and approach this full time.
I love that.
So I think I can beat him. So what happens when we beat him? So we're one-on-one in November with the Democrat. Now, that had happened before. In 2018, in the neighboring district, Washington 2, a fellow named Brian Luke, libertarian.
I know him.
You know Brian Luke. Good guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he got one-on-one with, I think Rick Larson is the Democrat over there. But look, that district is so blue that you know, it's just not fair to anybody else. But my district is kind of purple.
Nice.
That same candidate who had a $15,000 budget, he got 40% of the vote.
Wow.
So I've got to think that just by not being the Democrat, I'm starting at 40%. And
absolutely.
My job is to persuade the voters, change minds, add voters to the pool.
Get new voters, sure. Absolutely.
Get new voters. I think I have the right message for it. But if I'm one-on-one and I can nationalize libertarian support, I can put up a fair fight against her.
No, I love the idea.
Yeah, and you know what I'll do? I'll change the election, into a referendum. We'll say, hey, look, and the Democrat-Republican regime in Washington, D.C., okay, that's my opponent. If you think that Congress is doing a good job, you vote for her. If you would like to express your opinion that you're not happy with what Congress is doing, then you can vote for me.
I like that.
Make it a referendum on Congress. They have a 20% approval rating the last time I looked on politics. If that. Exactly. And so we'll make it a referendum on that, and I'll be one-on-one. I'll be the only other option. A great analogy. If you don't mind me bossing the show here for a little bit.
Take it. Go, brother. Go.
A great analogy is we all
just, you know what? Speak even louder.
Speak even louder? Okay. We all know about the like the kung fu movies. You watch as the hero takes down 30 guys.
Right.
Okay. He's only able to do that because they attack him one at a time.
That's exactly right. Yes.
if they all came at him once, he would feel like a libertarian candidate in a general election fighting the Democrat and the Republican at the same time, and that's why they come in third. But here in Washington, I can defeat the Republican and then fight the Democrat.
Right. I got it.
That's the idea behind the One Seat for Liberty campaign.
I like it. I think it's great. So let me ask you, I know COVID hit recently, and I know you were thinking of this earlier. Before COVID, did you have one or two or three issues that were like your top issues?
I do, and they haven't changed. The campaign is essentially 3 declarations.
Okay.
What I'm asking voters in my district is, do you agree with these 3 declarations? If you do, please vote for me. Declaration 1 is that the regime of the Democrats and Republicans in Congress, the professional politicians, is irredeemable, and we must stop electing them. Okay? That they've abandoned responsible governance. The regime is irredeemable, and we must remove them from power. That's declaration number 1. Declaration number 2 is that to resolve our blue city, red county differences, we need to de-emphasize Washington, D.C. and make it less important and make our governing decisions and work these issues out closer to home.
Got it.
Declaration 3 is that we must defend free enterprise and voluntary exchange and oppose oppressive government controls. In other words, we must defend capitalism and suppress socialism. Those are the 3 declarations of the campaign, and the idea is the voters who agree with it, please spread the message, share, donate, volunteer, and vote for that message expressing your support.
So let me ask you, in the blue parts of the state, you say it's kind of purple in your district. In the blue parts of your district, do they tend to be like the socialist Bernie supporters, or do they tend to not be, more like the Biden types?
Well, I think that they still have all of their cognitive ability, so I'm not going to lump them in with Vice President Biden. Sorry about that. I had to take that.
Okay.
But no, Washington is a lot like Illinois. Illinois has King County that runs the entire state. Illinois has Cook County. Washington has King County that runs the state down there in Seattle. And that's where you'll find the Bernie Sanders. In fact, they even have a socialist. Their name is Shama Sawant or something like that.
Okay.
On the city council down there. Yeah, that's a whole different world. And I don't know that I can build a bridge to that kind of authoritarianism from a libertarian point of view.
But is that in your district?
No.
I meant in your district.
Yeah, in that's all down in Seattle. That's down there. But my district runs basically between the mountains to the east. So between the mountains, and then there's a highway called I-5. And it's between that from very north King County all the way up to the Canadian border. But the city of Everett, the city of Bellingham.
Oh, that's where the more blue is.
Yeah, but they're not in my district. That's Larson's district.
Got it.
Yeah, my district is between the highway and the mountains. It's the little town.
Oh, so the odds of you having the Bernie bros in your district are slim.
Yeah, there aren't many of them. I mean, there are a few.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Okay. Oh, good for you. That's not bad. All right. So let me talk. What was your first one that they are irredeemable?
Yeah, the regime of Democrat Republicans control Congress is irredeemable and they must be replaced.
How does that land when you say that? That to me, that sounds highbrow. Do people get that or no?
Many of them do.
Okay.
Those who are solidly on Team Democrat or solidly on Team Republican, they take umbrage at my saying that they're essentially the same on the things that matter.
Absolutely.
Trillion-dollar deficits, $800 billion military budgets, dropping bombs and predator drones all over the planet. The military posted up, NATO going all the way to Russia. These are, that on those big issues, they're the same. Now, some people have their minds turned off because they're part of Team Democrat or part of Team Republican, and they get offended that I include the two. But the non-hyper partisan people that you run into at the bar, at the open mic, at the brewery, at the restaurant, at the trailhead, no, they love to hear that. They totally agree that the partisan games are embarrassing, and the scandals are embarrassing, and the results coming out, they've abandoned responsible governance, and people see that. People agree with that. That first declaration is the primary declaration.
I love it. I'm glad it's working. That's good. So is there a cool slogan for it? Is there a build that wall, or is there a Medicaid for all, or is there a cool slogan for it?
Not for that declaration. The slogan of the campaign is the One Seat for Liberty campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that this seat will belong not only to the people here in the district, but to the people across the country.
Got it.
See government not as a fight between the right and the left, but rather as a fight between freedom and authority.
So the One Seat for Liberty is the overarching slogan.
Yeah, and it was a wonderful slogan before Justin Amash resigned and joined the party, and so that took away my chance to be the first libertarian member of the United States House of Representatives.
Well, you can be the second.
Yeah, well, it still works because my understanding is that he's no longer running for his House seat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So my campaign is now to maintain One Seat for Liberty.
Oh, I like that. You can pick up where he dropped off. Nice. Okay, he'll hand the torch to you. I love that.
I would love that. Yes. Absolutely.
So the second one after the irredeemable, the second one is
the second one is that to resolve our blue city, red county differences, we must de-emphasize Washington D.C. and make our decisions closer to home.
So do our people in your district, are they hearing that, I guess, localization message? Does that land for them?
Yes, it does.
Nice.
Yeah, the idea being that, I mean, for crying out loud, we almost had a case go before the United States Supreme Court about where people were going to the bathroom.
Yes.
And when people hear that sort of absurdity, it absolutely resonates with them.
Mm-hmm.
But they also see that Washington, D.C., the federal government that we have, was designed to resolve disputes between the states.
Right, sure.
We don't have red states and blue states. That's a misnomer.
I agree.
We have blue cities and red counties.
Yep.
And they form coalitions and fight it out in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Which doesn't make a lick of sense. Let's fight it out as neighbors, here in Olympia, Washington, or in New York, in Albany. Let's all get together and solve. We'll figure out where people go to the bathroom there. And,
right. All right.
We'll de-emphasize Washington, D.C.
I like the idea. All right, and the last one is
basically the protection of free enterprise and of capitalism.
So defending capitalism and defending against socialism.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
My worry about that one is, does the average person actually understand what either of those really is?
Well,
right? Does the average American actually get what socialism is, or what capitalism is? I don't know. I'm asking you.
They don't know it as well as they need to.
Okay.
I'll say that. They absolutely don't know it as well as they need to. But when explained, the miracle that capitalism has been to mankind, the Foundation for Economic Education points out that in the 1820s, 93% of mankind lived in extreme poverty. By the 1990s, that number was in the 30%. Today, it's in the single digits.
Yeah.
You ask people, okay, why did that happen? Did that happen because of government, or did that happen because of people voluntarily trading with each other?
Okay.
And it's been an absolute miracle. We hear, Bernie Sanders has made a lot of hay off the millionaires and billionaires.
Yes. He actually doubled down and said there shouldn't be any billionaires, remember?
Yeah.
He was like, there should not be any billionaires. He's like, let's pass a law against billionaires, put them in jail. Yeah.
It's funny. He felt the same way about millionaires until he became one.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I have to take this opportunity to look at a guy. Bernie Sanders is one of the greatest capitalists of all time, right? Because what he did, he built a brand. He built a customer base. He sold them his message, and he made himself a millionaire and employed thousands of people along the way.
Yep.
Now, he opposes everything that he did, but he made himself rich and got a lot of people jobs, a lot of people working for him.
Yep.
A lot of economic activity opposing, what it is that made him so wealthy. It's like the people fighting capitalism by tweeting on their iPhones.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
The corporate structure. Now, Larry, if you could help me get back to where we were before.
I'm sorry. I liked your Bernie piece. That was good. No, my question was, I have a worry. And this is a worry that I've dealt with many times, and I think you see it often. When you use the words capitalism and socialism, My worry is, and again, I could be wrong. This is your district, and you know your district better than I do. My worry is that people don't really know what those words mean. So when you start to say capitalism versus socialism, does your audience get it, or do they have some fantasy, good or bad, right, of what any of them is? I think some people look at capitalism and say, oh, capitalism is bad because in their head, they're thinking crony capitalism, right? And some people say socialism. Oh, that's good because we're social creatures and we want to be social. And they won't understand the actual meanings of those words. That's a worry.
Yeah, what do they call that? In Orwell called it newspeak.
Yes.
That capitalism is no longer the free and voluntary exchange of goods and services. What capitalism is a rich fat guy with his boot on the throat of the poor guy working and stealing his money from him. And that's a shame. And that's why, if you look on my website, I think I even word it as voluntary exchange rather than capitalism. And I'll credit Michael Pickens for that. He's the one who had the same concerns that you're expressing right now. And instead of calling it socialism, we call it oppressive government controls. Oh,
I like that way better.
It fits in the COVID world too, because what are we seeing?
Absolutely.
Oppressive government controls. I never thought that it would be an act of civil disobedience to go get my hair cut.
Yes, rebel, Steven. You're such a rebel. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went to the Stag Barbershop in Snohomish, Washington, because there's a great guy there, 79-year-old Marine veteran, who says, I've been cutting hair forever. I know how to do it safely, and I don't need the governor's permission to cut hair. And he went in, and he's cutting hair every day and staring right back at the governor's eyes saying, what are you going to do about it?
Yep. Well, had you noticed my shirt? Some rebels on my shirt?
Oh, absolutely. Right there. Those guys.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, some rebels on my shirt, too. I'm with you. So, all right. I like the idea of changing that. Do you think... Let's go there then. I think the oppressive part works well, as you said, because of COVID. A lot of people are unhappy with the response to COVID. Do you have a view on that one way or the other, the response to COVID?
Oh, absolutely. The response to COVID, if you break it down into the bureaucratic preparation, all right, the immediate response, and then the ongoing response. You can see that government has failed. The federal government has failed at all levels. Going back to Declaration of One, the abandonment of responsible government.
Yep.
The CDC. We all have seen Contagion or The Stand.
And
we see it, we're scared, and then we realize, okay, well, we've got these smart guys. This whole CDC is there to prevent this from happening.
They're going to save us.
Happens, and you look at their budget, and you realize that 92% of what the CDC does has nothing to do with novel zoonotic viruses. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's the first part of preparation. The next is that why in a nation that taxed $6 trillion last year, why is any hospital anywhere without a 50-cent paper gown? In terms of preparation, we know this is a great risk. In fact, we have the whole CDC, which is supposedly to deal with it. Why do we not have stockpiles?
And everyone talks about, there's literally movies about this stuff. Like everyone knows. In fact, if you now look at even the new zombie movies, right? And there's tons of zombie and undead movies, and they're always about a virus, right? Even the zombies that used to be in the 60s were just magic or aliens or something. Now even these are all viruses. Everyone knows everyone knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, and so why don't we have the stockpiles? And why is the CDC doing 92% other things? So bureaucratically, they left us in a bad place. But now let's look at the response. I became aware of this. I have a very smart friend in Albuquerque, New Mexico named John Clark, who in the middle of January on his Facebook page posted that he was worried about this when he saw the incubation period of it. I had been ignoring it until then, but once he said something, I started looking at it. So it was January. Now let's give the government credit all the way until late January, when the task force was formed. What were they doing in February? You have a novel zoonotic virus that has blown through China, that is on its way to the United States. What was our federal government, our bipartisan Mad Magazine spy versus spy government doing in the month of February while this virus was coming over and taking hold in America? our representatives, our irredeemable Democrat Republican representatives, were having their Mad Magazine spy versus spy impeachment in the House. And how I don't want to get bogged down in Trump, but looking at it now that we're looking at a Great Depression level, 35 million people unemployed and 80,000 dead, we have to ask ourselves, did that really seem all of that important? Was that more important than preparing for this pandemic? And it wasn't. That was when we should have been getting ventilators. That's when we should have been opening field hospitals. And more importantly, that's when we should have been testing to find out where it all is. The FDA.
Hold on. There's a guy, I have a question real fast. He says that the federal government, as it increases control, do you think it's time for them to kind of distribute their assets? Do you think that's a better answer? Should we have still kept it in the CDC and the CDC wasn't doing the right stuff? Or should we have kind of divvied it up in some way, shape, or form?
I am not opposed to the idea of a CDC.
Okay.
A federal. If there is a role for the federal government, I'm a limited federal government guy. I'm a 10th Amendment guy. But the federal government in a loose union of states, which our Constitution prescribes for us, I can see a role of the federal government of being a clearinghouse of information and one place to fund the studying of this. So, the diffusement works in a million different ways. When it comes to the CDC, I'm not opposed to the federal government taking the lead in that if they would have been taking the lead in novel zoonotic viruses instead of the 92% of other things they were doing.
Got it. Okay. Good question. Okay. So I got it. Keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you up, but that question came in. I wanted to make sure we dealt with it.
No problem. So then we need testing, not only to find out who has it so we can treat it, but to find out how prevalent it is. Going back to my friend John Clark, what concerned him is that he knew of asymptomatic cases in the 5 to 14-day period.
I see. Okay, right.
So
makes sense.
We know there are people carrying this around who are not sick.
So we can't tell.
We need to be sampling our population because that's the only way to determine the denominator to find out how deadly the thing actually is.
Right.
That's important information to know that we didn't make an effort to know about until mid-April. And even that was done privately. Stanford University was one. MIT was another that started sampling the population. This should have been done back in February when the information really mattered. But and we also couldn't test for the disease because the CDC and the FDA were fighting over regulatory. University of Washington up here was ready to test in late January. They ended up actually just breaking the law and testing anyway. So hat tip to the University of Washington for that. But universities and labs all across the country were ready to test for this thing and manufacture tests in January. Our government prevented them from doing that. They actively made it worse. We were ill prepared, and then they actively made the problem worse. And then this is the worst part, Larry, that there is no evidence that any of these lockdowns have made any difference.
I know. New York City had New York State had a new thing in that showed a new stat that 66% of all of the people who were put in the hospital were actually at home. We're actually doing the stay-at-home order. 2/3 were actually staying at home.
Yeah. Have you seen the 538 piece that went around just a couple of days ago showing the aggregate mobility cell phone data in all 50 states? Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Gosh, I wonder if I'm smart enough to share my screen. I don't know.
Tell me about it.
Take that risk. Well, what you can find at Nate Silver, 538.com. There's a data analyst site. It's not a partisan site, but they looked at year over year, 2019 versus 2020, from March through the middle of May, and they measured the movement of people with their cell phones. What they found is that by the time even early states like Washington and California, before they put a single lockdown or a single shelter-in-place order, the people had already stopped moving about, and their movements afterwards made no difference. And in states that never did lock down, I'm talking about Oklahoma, I'm talking about Nebraska, one of the Dakotas, I think it was North Dakota, maybe even South, I don't know. But their charts look exactly the same. Government may not understand this, but people tend to act in their best interest, and they don't want to get sick, and they don't want this to happen to them too. Remember, before a single government lockdown, The NBA canceled its season.
Yes, I remember.
The NCAA tournament canceled their tournament. Major League Baseball sent all the players home from spring training. Every rock concert, every convention.
We were already there.
All across the country. We're talking about people voluntarily, keyword, voluntarily giving up billions of dollars. Now, was it because they knew their shows and their games people wouldn't go? What were their motivations? I don't know. But the reality was you didn't have to point the guns of government at anybody to get them to do the right thing.
So let me go to the next piece. There's a question here. What do you think about the tracking of people in the name of COVID?
Well, thank goodness Governor Inslee finally backed off today of his plan to require restaurants to get name and contact information of everyone who goes in to at their restaurant in case there is a breakout or someone gets sick, and then they can send about their army of contact tracers, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to tread very carefully here because the mainstream media, the clickbait media, lives on fear. They want you terribly afraid so that you'll click and share and like and comment. So I don't want to fall into that trap. But I think it's darn scary to have an army of COVID trackers running around. The government's going to knock on my door and say, hey, look, we're going to test you for this. And then it's completely out of my hands. They could say I have it. They could say I don't. There's no way for me to know. And they're like, bam, now you've got 14 days of house arrest. And if you don't like it, we'll take your kids away from you. You know, and so I mean, that for all of our rights, which are just being stomped on all over the place. But I don't even know how to quantify the invasion of privacy.
Terrible.
And the restriction of liberty based on,
So let me ask you now, the things you're saying, I'm with you. I think the audience is with you. But my question becomes, with COVID, this is we're on the COVID route, right? How do you make impact this race when, as a third party, we're kind of handicapped here, right? You're not going to be able to go out and do massive rallies, particularly in Washington, right? They're going to be scared for a while, right? How do we make impact knowing that we're kind of handicapped now?
Yeah, I think that the first thing, before I answer the question, is I just want to point out that that's awfully convenient for those that are in power. The third parties and even, in Washington, the Republican opposition, that they can't get out and have rallies, and they can't get out and campaign. And that's very, very helpful for a governor like Jay Inslee.
Well, the incumbents are set.
They love
all the incumbents are set.
Absolutely. They love it. So what is my strategy to win, right? First off, I have my eyes fully locked on this August 4th primary, and I need to take 25,000 votes from him and get one more of my own, or however that works out. He got 50,000 votes in 2018, right? That's where I need to win that. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'm fortunate that I have a great social media guy. His name is Jesse Stoddard of the Stoddard Agency. He is an expert at putting messages in front of the right people.
Nice.
So I am creating content. Jesse is putting the content out on the internet right now. It is very favorable to advertise and to boost your posts on Facebook because it is dirt cheap.
There we go.
It's amazing the reach that we are getting with these. So we are going to saturate Facebook feeds with my voice talking about the issues and what's important to me.
I love it.
So that's the first step. Second is raising funds nationally to pay for that. That's important. That I need to get. And thank you for your audience, and if your audience members would like to donate, Skelton 2020 donate button right there. Pooling resources so that we can get past this primary. And lastly, that you can't stop me from evangelizing liberty. I'm still going around the world. There's door hangers. We can hang things on people's doors. We can meet people where they are. I can put bumper
so this is door knocking for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Okay.
I will go out and I'll do whatever it takes. Anthony Welty, who was on yesterday, he's a guy who has bushwhacked the trail of how to hustle.
I know.
He's amazing.
He's a madman. I love him.
Yeah, there's two guys who bushwhacked the trail that I'm on, and that's Brian Luke and Anthony Welty. That Brian Luke showed me that, hey, you can beat the Republican and then you're one-on-one.
Right.
And then Anthony Welty showed me that, you know what, you can quit your job and you can go out and you can do this full time. Because
absolutely It's what I did when I ran for governor.
It's important. I can always, when I'm done, I'm a consultant to attorneys. I can always pick up the phone and call attorneys and get new clients.
Yep.
I can do that. But this is important. And when a hurricane hits, and you see the guys, they get in their pickup trucks and they have their tools and their trucks and they go down to see what they can do with the skills they have. When that happens, I'm of no use. I don't have a pickup truck. I don't have any tools, and I don't know how to do anything like that. But when I see the infringements on our freedoms coming the way they are, I see a government that has abandoned responsible governance, and that storm, that is a threat.
That's what you can do.
Danger. Yeah, that's a threat and that's a danger, and that's where my skills as a sales professional, which is what you are, that's where it comes in handy because I can persuade.
Got it.
Win or lose in this election, I am going to speak the truth about economics and about freedom to as many people as I can. These 3 declarations, and I am going to do what I can with the tools that I have to defend against this loss of liberty. And you know what? I don't want to start talking about economic collapse, but on my website there's a picture of money littering the streets of Venezuela. We just threw $2.7 trillion on the credit card
and about to throw $3 trillion more.
If Nancy Pelosi has her way, absolutely
$3 trillion more.
While people are locking down, not producing anything, here's a little cup of reality. Money is only good for exchanging for goods and services. If there aren't goods and services to exchange, your money's not worth anything.
So let's go to this. You've just brought up a valid point, right? This is a lot of fear. How do we get around the fear, Steven? I mean, people are afraid because COVID's going to kill them. They're afraid because the economy's collapsing. They're afraid because the socialists are going to get them. They're afraid because the Trump is going to kill them. Everybody's afraid of something, right? So you've got people who are afraid, and when I'm afraid, if I lean right, I'm going to vote for my guys on the right. If I lean left, I'm going to vote for my guys on the left. But how do we get around that? Or do we? How do we handle that? How do we handle that fear that's everywhere?
You address it head on. You validate the parts of it that are real or are necessary or are reflections of the reality that is around us. And then you refute that isn't with the disinfectant of truth.
So you're saying you validate what's real and go, hey, I get why you're afraid. It makes sense. This is the issue that I'm with you on. And then you say, this really you shouldn't be afraid of. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. These are the things that you should not be afraid of. These are the things that you are. And to give an example, if we're talking about COVID, okay, that you should not be afraid to pass somebody on a hiking trail in the mountains. You should not be afraid of what happens at a trailhead or a fishing spot or people getting their hair cut or going through the grocery store. You should not be afraid of other people acting that way. It's not going to get you sick.
Okay.
What will get you sick is you coming in contact with it. So let's validate. Yeah, we're all afraid of getting sick, but are you elderly? Do you have underlying health conditions? And then show the reality is that if you're not elderly and you don't have underlying health conditions, you may be in for an awful sickness, but you're probably not going to die.
Got it.
Those people going to the hardware store aren't killing you. So we affirm what there is to be afraid of, and then we shed light on what isn't scary. It isn't
Got it.
scary
Okay.
that I got my hair cut.
So you mentioned the idea of what you're going to do to win. Obviously, you're going to go out there, you're going to follow what the other guys are doing. You're going to try to win this thing. You're going to raise your money, first win the primary, and then try to win the prize and be the only libertarian congressman. I hope that's true. What if you don't win? Have you decided on what is a secondary win? What's a consolation prize? I mean, I always bring it up, right? When I ran for governor, it was very easy for me, right? If I didn't win, well, I get ballot access. Mm-hmm. How about you? Do you have a similar thing?
Okay. Levels of success. First is getting myself the same resources as the Republican. Am I able, with a libertarian message, to get the same resources from the people, not PACs, because PACs aren't donating to him either. So am I able to make it a level playing field? second, am I able to win that primary or come in second in that primary? Between you and me, Larry, anything less than second in that primary is a failure for me.
Okay,
and
that's
I'm
clear.
Okay, I'm okay with that. That's where I've set out to go. Now, I use a lot of mountain analogies because that's what I do with myself. But sometimes you set out for an objective and you don't get there, and that's fine. You turn around and you go back to the car. And if I don't get to my objective, that's fine. But what I can't live with is knowing that I left anything on the table. That's what I can't live with. So I've got to win that first election, and I guess I could take some solace in coming in second in the primary and getting to the general, and having the cryon at the bottom of the news screen show a libertarian at 40%. Instead of the Republican. I think that would be a huge win for the party and a huge win for my first declaration, which is we got to get rid of these parties. We got to take away their power.
I like it.
Go ahead.
No, I like it. I'm agreeing with you. I'm liking it. I agree with you completely.
But I also think that if I get past that first, that my candidacy will be a story, and I will level the playing field, and we will have a fight. And I got to think in this zeitgeist, when you look at the national election, as you brought up earlier, that is the big zeitgeist going on. I can't imagine Americans being less happy with the two choices they have than Biden and Trump. Even worse than when it was Clinton and Trump, because at least the authoritarian on the left hadn't been losing the marbles, I guess you could say.
Okay. I guess that's true. I guess it depends how you look at it, I guess, right? But no, I'm with you.
Yeah. So what if an authoritarian like Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris is his vice president, his vice presidential nominee, and you either get the authoritarian on the right, Trump, or you get the authoritarian on the left, Harris or Elizabeth Warren. Either way, you've got an authoritarian.
So the last piece I want to bring up is, are there any natural niches that you think people who will just jump on you because they'll go, as soon as they hear you, you know what, that's my guy.
It'd be small business owners. I'm a small business owner. My wife has a law firm, and I have my consulting business. And I try to go to small businesses as much as possible. I know the small business owners. We're on the same round tables.
Nice.
They speak to me all the time of the problems that they have running in with government and with the controls that are put in place and the obstacles that are put in place to their success.
Right.
Just how much we have to support the rent seekers of the world to run our businesses.
Right.
Where I live here in Everett, the first 2% of revenue that comes in, before I can even cost anything out, the first 2% heads out to the local government in the county and in the state. And that's before I've paid any income taxes.
Absolutely.
That's before I've met any regulatory burden. That's before I've purchased unnecessary equipment because some rent seeker in government says that I have to have it.
Right.
Those small business owners that I have built relationship with over the years that I've lived here in Washington, speaking on these issues, they support my candidacy for the United States House.
Nice. I'm very glad to hear that.
They agree with me I agree with them on the small local stuff, so they agree with me on the federal stuff.
Makes sense. It's good. All right. Anything you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. It was really a thrill that I first came across you when Nick Gillespie interviewed you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
And as libertarians, we are always looking for candidates that, you don't want to say real candidates because every candidate is a real candidate, but a candidate that presents themselves in a manner that gives them a chance of victory. And when I saw Larry Sharpe on with Nick Gillespie, I thought to myself, well, there's a guy that libertarian candidates can emulate because he speaks a message that is electable.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've been, I don't want to use the word fan, but I'm going to. I've been a fan of Larry Sharpe.
I appreciate it. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's an honor for me, and thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Everybody, if you want to help out Steven, head over to skelton2020.com. If you're in his district, he needs people to help him knock on doors. If you're on his district, if it's in his district, you know what? Go help him out. Show up. Get on his website, say you're ready to volunteer and do some door hangers. That's awesome. If you have some dollars you want to throw his way, particularly if you want to make some impact there in Washington State, go ahead and do that. And if you can't do any of that, if you're strapped on cash and you're not near him, no worries. You can be his social media warrior. You can share his stuff, like, comment, tell your friends, all that could work. Steven, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Facebook.com/OneSeatForLiberty.
There we go. It's all in the notes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.